always wondered if I could have sat in an environment like this long before I jumped into my career path, what would I have wanted to hear? And I'm asking you that same question because I have different things that I look back on and I go, wow, if I'd have just known this, I would have done this different. And we just had a conversation a minute ago where, darn it, half of it's the experience, the challenge of getting to where you are, and when you get there, in a lot of ways, you're like, maybe you wouldn't have changed a darn thing you did, and you'd have just done it the way you did it, because the experience is half the fun. Because when I was younger, I didn't want to be an artist, because nobody wants to attach themselves to a career that the word starving is next to. Really, I mean, as a kid, you're like, man, that sounds great. I could be hungry every day. Nobody says starving plumber. And so when you hear a starving artist, that sounds like a lot of fun to go. So I wanted to be a professional basketball player, which I had really a great chance. I actually thought I had a shot at it because I loved it. I loved art and I loved basketball, but art, nobody makes a living with that. And I thought I could make it. And I heard when I was a kid that the bigger your feet are, the taller you're going to be. But nobody taught me about genetics, so I thought if I wore big shoes, my feet would grow. And so I seriously wore Ronald McDonald's shoes in basketball, and the coach was like, wow, he's going to be tall someday. And then one game, my foot got caught underneath a mat, underneath the backboard, and a hook went right through the middle of the shoe. And I turned to run, and it just ripped my shoe. And everybody thought, oh no, he's ripped his foot. And the coaches ran over and they put their finger in my shoe and they're like, where's his foot? And that's when they taught me about genetics. So I don't date my cousin anymore either. So anyhow, bad joke, but that's Wyoming and that's just how we grew up there. So part of this is learning stuff as you go along. I didn't know the possibilities. And so to dive into a career where the word starving is attached to it, it's kind of intimidating. And I really wanted to play basketball. I really thought it would be something. Now I've learned that it's actually harder to be a professional artist, paint for galleries, and make a good living. It's harder to do that than it is to play professional basketball. Do you know that? Because you have Europe, you have the D-League now, you have so many different genres, you have coaching, you have all these different places in sports or in basketball you can make money. And art still changes all sorts of different directions as a professional physically painting artist. But when it comes to art, there are hundreds and thousands of different avenues to take. And so what I want to talk about today is just some of that. But more than anything, I'm going to open this up to questions and answers, because I have some fun stories and maybe some boring stories. I don't want to tell the boring ones, so if you ask the questions, I can figure out what you want to learn today, because that's the purpose of this. And again, if I could have sat in a room like this, what would I have wanted to hear? I think the most important thing would be that be who you know you're supposed to be. Because as you get older, you'll be able to look back and go, here's all my experiences, here's who I really am, here's my family, or maybe you didn't have a family, here's my whole experience, and here's where I am today. And you ask yourself, why? Because if I would have looked at that, if I would have understood that when I first started out, I would have done exactly what I'm doing now. But it took a long time to figure this out, that I should be doing what I do. Again, I wanted to be a basketball player, but this is what I should have been doing all along. Because today, one of my favorite statistics, when you go into first, second, and third grade kids, and you bring them out, and they do this survey, and they ask them what they want to be when they grow up. 85% of them want to be this one thing. Do you know what it is? 85%. That's a good one. That's like 10%. 10%. They want to do something with animals, but 85% want to do something with art. 85%. That's crazy. And then by fourth and fifth grade, things start to settle in. It's like, I'm not very good at this. They're not told that in the first and second grade. They're just doing it and having fun and just exploring. By the time they become seniors in high school, that percentage is still at 10%. Still at 10%. And by the time college beats you down, it's like 1%. that really want to do something in the art world. Now, of course, art is drama, it's cooking nowadays, and it's graphic design, it's all of that. And so now we have all these other avenues to pursue with our art. But think about that. When you're young, 85% of us all wanted to be artists. Do you remember wanting to be an artist? You're going, I don't know, maybe I did. I like to glue stuff, you know.
I wanted to be a genetic engineer when I was a kid.
See, and you're a part of that 5%. You're way ahead and like, go ahead. You're going to starve. I'm going to be an artist.
Look at all the diverse forms of life on the planet and tell me it's not an art form.
See, absolutely. So you've hit on something that's pretty interesting. 2 things that you learn as you go along. And if you can grasp this, I'll tell you a story. It's kind of a weird story, but everything is art, believe it or not. And everything from there is math. Now, does that scare you? You got to love math? You got to like math? Is art math? That is not exciting. I had a dream one time I died. And in this dream, I got to the other side and they're showing me all these cool things, and I turned to the people in the dream and I'm like, shouldn't I get to go to my funeral, don't I? And they're like, nah, don't worry about it, you'll be there, it's all good. And I felt like I'd been gone for months in this dream. And I'm going, listen, I know I get to go to my funeral, when do we go? And the guy goes, you know, time here is different. It's just not the same as it is on earth. And I went, well, how does that work? And he looks at me and he goes, it's all math. It's all math. And I woke up, no! I was just scared. No, honey, we got to learn math before we die because everything's math. But before I woke up, seriously, I saw something in that dream that changed my career. Everything had angles and shapes and numbers attached to them. And every angle and shape and color has a quantifiable number that is associated with it that gives off positive, negative, all sorts of different feelings and emotions. And I'm going, this is math? Math is emotion? How can this be? And that's when I woke up. Darn, I wish I'd dreamed a little longer. But it was true, and I figured it. I got an insight on it. I haven't figured it out. I do understand angles and how they tell different stories, and that was a fun exploration, something that was really exciting to grab onto. But from there, as I started out, heck, I didn't know what I was doing. Now, I'd love to stand up here and go, I had a plan. I had something laid out, and I knew exactly what I was doing. But I just wanted to feed my family. All right? And then the creative side really takes over. You want to become creative, be pushed up against the wall where you need to make a living or else you starve. And that's where I was when I was in my early 20s. My daughter was born, and I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to do this. I got to paint things that people like. Now, you can paint stuff that you like. You better hope that other people like it. And if you have a bigger demographic, like let's say you like animals and you paint animals, that's a pretty good demographic. You could probably make a living painting animals, right? I have a cousin. Oh, she is such a great artist. She's phenomenal. And she loves to paint sagebrush. She has 6 clients probably. That's about it. So, you know, trying to figure that out. Now, if she doesn't mind not making a lot of money, paint those sagebrush and do a great job at it. But don't complain that a lot of people aren't buying your sagebrush paintings. So I learned at a point where people love to travel. They love cool places. So for the love of heaven, paint something that people like. And hopefully, I learned to like it too. So that's the fortunate side of where I've gone with my business. I travel around the world and I paint places that you love. Name some places that you guys just would love to go back to, or you've been to, or you want to go to. Name them, any of them.
Cambodia.
Ireland, Cambodia. Good crud, you guys are creative. Cambodia, not been there yet. Anything? Tahiti, great place. Great. San Diego, always beautiful. All right? And why do you love it?
The temple there.
The temple, but it's always 75 degrees. Don't forget that part. Okay, always 75 degrees. So she loves it. I do a painting of San Diego. Maybe the painting's okay, but she loves San Diego. I bridge that gap between the emotion of why she would buy something and why she shouldn't. That's why I paint places. Now, I can paint sagebrush. She ain't buying it. She loves San Diego. All right? So as I've looked at expanding out my career, that's kind of the way I've approached this. Now, going back to what I said at the very beginning, and then I'll just kind of wrap this up, and then we'll turn it to question and answering. When I look back at my life and where I've been and what I'm doing now, oh my goodness, it makes so much sense. I'm from a farming family. I'm from a patriotic family. I'm from a religious family. I'm from a hard-working family. And a big family is a natural storytelling family. You get around a dinner table, people are making stuff up and telling stories. And that's what folk art is. Folk art is the relationship between people and their environment. And so I get to tell that story. And so I look back now and I go, oh, I couldn't be more lucky if I tried. Everything I thought I was doing or was doing it really has worked out that way. And so I put in front of you that thought. Where are you headed with what you're doing? What is your goal? Are you looking to just have a great experience? Are you looking to make money? Are you looking to be comfortable? What's your plan? And just keep doing what you love and what you believe you can do, and don't listen to anybody. Because I've sat in meetings where I've been told 100 times, this is dumb, don't do that, you'll never make it work. And frankly, if somebody right now is telling you, now there's a point where you do have to listen, you know, if you can't play basketball and your shoes are too big, you know, you probably ought to look more into art. But if somebody is telling you something and you believe in it, don't let it stop you. Just keep plowing forward, because somehow that opposition or that challenge is going to bring out the best of you. I promise that, because there's at least 20 times where I really should have stopped doing what I'm doing based on sometimes the economics, sometimes the people around me just saying that just isn't going to happen. To do a TV show, when I started to do TV, I thought, how cool it would be. I go and I meet these cool people anyway. They're awesome. I want to tell their story. I put them in a painting, but nobody really gets to meet them like I got to meet them. And so I'm experiencing this, and I thought, that sounds like a great show. And I didn't really want to do TV because you have to be really, I don't know, a different kind of person on TV. So I wasn't sure I wanted to do that, but I went down to BYU TV because I didn't know any other place to go, and I said, here's this idea. She patted me on my head and said, that is nice. Have a good day. Good luck in your hopes and dreams. And that was 5 years ago. And then when I went out and did some more research on it, they said the chances of you making a show and getting it on TV really is like 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000. It's just everybody thinks, and nowadays, frankly, we do have a TV show, but you tell somebody that and they're like, so do I. Who doesn't have a TV show? You know, I love that sound. That happened to me in a meeting one time where the governor started to dance because I had a real cool ringtone. But I was embarrassed. Anyhow, so you see what I'm saying? If I would have stopped right there, I wouldn't have got it done. And just yesterday, we were approved. And it's kind of weird because we went through the PBS route and we put the show on PBS. It was a lot of fun, very hard to do. But we decided to pull it back from PBS, and we just signed, I know, we're at UVU, but I just signed with BYU TV. So I don't know what it'll mean. It might be an hour, half hour of your life you can't get back if you stop and watch it. And so, but what I do on TV is I actually meet the people and do what I've always wanted to do, or what I do every day, and you get to meet cool people. I don't do anything. I'm worthless on screen. It's the cool people that I meet, and they come alive in the show. And so that's the fun of what we're putting together. So, enough about me. What about you? What do you guys want to know? Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
So, actually, my family and I we're really big fans of your work because we have your calendars. We've had them for like the past 5 years, and I'm wondering, like, what's your inspiration for your style?
It's a good question. When I first, I love realism. My dad was like, here's a bowl of fruit, there's a bowl of fruit, make it look like a bowl of fruit. Here's a deer, make a deer look like a deer. If you can do that, you're a good artist. Okay, so that's how I grew up. So realism was it. Then I moved back east. Back east, folk art, where it doesn't have to look real, is a popular style. And I moved from Wyoming to Boston, which was a great transition. If you speak full sentences from Wyoming, they're pretty proud of you. But if you do it in Boston, they don't care. And so that was really a big change in my life to go back to Boston. But I learned folk art back there. And folk art, again, is storytelling. And so my inspiration, one of my favorite artists is Charles Wysocki. He takes a place and he tells a story. And that's where I've deviated from Charles Wysocki, is that I pick a specific place. He would pick a generic place, like a fishing village, and just make a fishing village painting. I'll actually go to Prince Edward Island and tell the story of that village there. And that's the inspiration behind it. But I'm just looking for cool people that do things that are unique and interesting, and then I put them in the painting. And yes, we get to eat some decent food every now and then. And then we get some nasty food. I don't know what they're eating down in Colombia sometimes. Anyhow, go ahead. Next question. Go ahead.
What was your first big break?
It's a good question. I would knock on people's doors and I'd go, "Hey, I'll paint a picture of your house." And somehow in the translation, they're like, "You'll paint my house for $150? Start in the kitchen." And I'm like, "No, a painting of your home." And so for $150, I'd paint a picture of people's homes. Up in Salt Lake, there's a nice area called Walker Lane, and that's where I'd knock on the doors. I think there were signs that said no soliciting. I didn't know what it meant. Again, I wore shoes that were too big. I wasn't very smart. So I just asked if I could paint their house, and I would do that. And one man, who was actually running for the Senate, commissioned me to do a painting, and I didn't know what to charge, and I asked another professional artist, and he goes, "Charge $1,000," and I'm like, $1,000? I could make hundreds of dollars doing this. Anyhow, he bought it, and then another man commissioned me to do 10 paintings for his office. It blew my mind. And so I was very fortunate, but how I got that job is I spent 2 weeks, literally did not eat for 2 weeks, starved, and did research and plotted out all 10 paintings. I went way beyond what he was expecting, so when I went in and made my presentation, this is back when he had no PowerPoints, and I didn't know how the computer even worked. It was all sticking things and taping things together and telling him how I was going to do these paintings, and I got the job. And then after that 10 months of doing those 10 paintings, then what? Well, I had to come up with the next idea. It was about 15 years ago where I thought, I did a puzzle with a gentleman who was really well known, kind of person you'd like to get to know. After about 3 hours of doing a puzzle with him, I'm going, because if you've ever done a puzzle with somebody, they let their hair down, they become very relaxed, they're telling stories, some that they normally would not tell, but they just get comfortable. And your kids will confess things to you. It's great. I found out how, Autumn's first kiss. I'm like, and then you have to act real coy, like, "Oh, that's nice. We'll just keep talking here." So they do a puzzle with you next time. But I learned by doing a puzzle that's where you get to explore art more than you ever would have a chance to. And so big break, one guy, and then the next guy, but it was one guy really. So how did I get here? About 75 breaks, and every single person was intricate. And so when somebody stands up and goes, "Hey, I'm successful, or I've been able to make this work," but it's all these people. It really is. It will be for all of you, no matter what you do. Thank goodness for great people that see your potential and let you do what you want to do. So thanks for asking that. Anybody else?
Did you have like a mentor along the way, or would you suggest one?
Yeah. Okay, here's one of the challenges to that. If you go to college and and I didn't go to college. I went to 1 year at Rick's, but that was to meet people and to learn what it was like to be out of Wyoming. That was all. And we went and I took a bowling class and art classes. That's it. But if you don't go to school, you need to get some mentors. And like I said, so if you go to college, all my friends that did go to school, they paint like their professors. Okay? And because I didn't go to school, I paint like I want to paint. I did learn from Wysocki and a few other people, and that was helpful. But in a lot of ways, you take what is out there and then you apply it to yourself and come up with your own thing. So if you're going to school, learn from your professors, learn their methods. If it's art, math, science, whatever it is, learn their methods, but then apply it to yourself because you are unique. Your background is important. You're going to give your own twist, and maybe your twist is the next thing that'll make something great. So find somebody, learn from them, but don't copy them. That would be my suggestion on that. Go ahead.
So what would be your process if you suddenly think, okay, like you did UVU. So you're going to say, I'm going to do a painting of UVU. What would you do then?
Okay, good. That's understanding that. It's taken me a while to perfect that a little bit. Let me use the example of right now, St. Augustine. I'm going to go and paint St. Augustine. Does anybody know anything about St. Augustine? I asked my staff this today because we go through every city and we want to understand their story. St. Augustine, it's the oldest city in America. And as I was researching it, before I even go there, I look at all the pictures, I get to know the story. So that when I go there, I know what to look for. And then so the story is, here's all this cool stuff, and what a beautiful town St. Augustine is. UVU campus, for example, when I was doing that. Here's the buildings. Now, when you go there, and I spent a couple days on campus interviewing people, scaring them, and I get to know the people, what they think of it, why they're there, their passion. And so when I go to St. Augustine, I will do that. I will learn that side of it. I'll do a lot of photos. And then I go back. I don't paint on scene. And if you watch the show, it makes it look like I'm painting on scene and drawing. Yeah, that would take forever. And I'd never be home. So I then take it home and I paint it and put it together. And then I just start to go for it from there. But in my mind, the painting is done when I start it. So, but it's a lot of photo work and really the story, the fun, the flavor, the characters, anything like that. So that's how that process goes. Yes.
So what's your favorite story that you...
I have a cool story, and I have painted it, but you won't see it in the painting so much.
Coolest one.
Okay, so you know that you be the first to do something. Everybody wants to be the first. Well, I'm going to argue it might be a pretty good idea to be the second person to do something, because the first person is just plowing the way for you to be successful. What I'm saying is somebody someday, they're going to go into Africa with puzzles and they're going to be successful, because I went to Africa with puzzles and I learned a very valuable lesson that they've never seen puzzles before. So what I did, and I thought this would be fun, because I knew a guy and we were going to meet the vice president of Kenya. And so we had this big meeting where they were going to have all the cameras there for all their media. It was a goodwill thing. It was a charity deal we were going to do. We were going to go do some paintings of one of their villages and tell their story. And so I wanted to do really a special puzzle for him. So I commissioned this guy who cuts out puzzles with a saw, and he does individual pieces. It's a $3,000 wooden puzzle, and it's unbelievable the way he does it. It's phenomenal. The guy's gifted. And so I spent all this money on this great puzzle. I carried it on the plane, didn't want to mess it up and everything. We get there, the cameras are there, and we're like, we have a gift for you, an offering, and they're very proper over in Kenya. So I put this puzzle on the table, I unveil it, and immediately he goes, "Oh my goodness, your painting is broken." And I'm going, "No, you see, we're going." He goes, "Oh no, I would talk to customs. This is not acceptable." And I'm like, "No. See, in America, we take our art and we cut it up and then we put it back together." And he's going, "What an incredible waste of time." You could see his mind, he didn't say that, but you could see his mind going, "Okay." I'm like, "This is a gift for your children. Take it home." And we then left him and we went out to the villages where we saw the kids. We had hundreds of puzzles and we gave it to them, and they were like, they didn't know what to do with them. Some of them got it and they loved it. Oh, it was exciting watching them put it together. Like, oh, it was hard to find a flat surface. That was one of the problems. You know, their desk was like a log, and we're like, So we found some flat surfaces and we started to go for it. We actually did them on the floor, on blankets. Then we went back and we got with the vice president. He goes, "I took the painting to the kids and they don't get it. They don't get it at all." And I went, "Well, all right, next guy is going to do really well." So that was kind of fun. So in one of my paintings of Africa, you'll see this puzzle piece and a guy staring at it going, "I have no idea what this is." If I would have poured a bowl and they would have poured it out and thought it was they would have thought it was cereal. What an interesting flavor of cereal. It was just so amazing to see that type of but you learned really quick that these kids that had mathematical skills, they loved it. Spatial intelligence, you could see where it really made them take off. So if you got to go to class, you got to go to class. I got it. I won't be offended. So any other questions? Go ahead.
So, for instance, the puzzle that you did for UVU, how much time,
A lot.
start to finish, how many hours did that take?
That's 3 months. 3 months. Oh, good heaven! It is. So if somebody were to ask, what's my strength? Because, I don't have any secret powers. I'm not even a great artist, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of phenomenal artists out there that are better than I am. But I grew up on a farm where we milked cows before we went to school. In the evening, we took care of the chickens and we weeded the garden and we worked. So my strength is I work long, long hours all the time. And as soon as a dairy farmer becomes an artist, then I'm in trouble. But until then, we're pretty good because I'll outwork. And I hire other artists, and they're phenomenal. They're really great, but they're 9 to 5ers. And so 12 to 14, 16 hours a day. I take a break to come and do this because it's fun. But then it's back to the slave quarters. So, yeah, they take a long time. So.
Okay, so I guess what are you working on right now? What did you leave the company?
I am working on Canadian. Canada is turning 150, so I'm doing 10 Canadian pieces. So last night, have you ever heard of Churchill, Canada? I'm sure you have. It's right below the Hudson Bay, population 15 people. I don't know. There's about 500 people there, but people go there to get in these big vehicles and they see the polar bears and the beluga whales. So it's a growing tourist spot. It's hard to get to, and so I'm doing. That's the one I finished last night. Churchill, Canada, beluga whales and polar bears. And so I will go there before I finish the painting and make sure I have the full story. So, yeah.
I had a talk with Al Rounds a while ago.
You spent time with Al Rounds? You're lucky.
It was way cool. Yes,
Yeah.
he was painting and he was talking to a group of us. And he mentioned that when he was young, when he was going to school and college and whatever, that his classmates would paint and do it quick and get done and be finished. But it wasn't like that for him. He
Right.
had to take hours and hours. And he said it prepped him, so now when he's an artist as a trade, that's what he did. It sounds like you're kind of on that same...
Any career. I see a kid, he goes, I want to play football. Now, if you really want to play professional football, first of all, look at your genetics. And that'll help you out. But if that boy's carrying the ball everywhere he goes, if he just wants to play football and catch and studies football all the time, he's going to make it. Because that's really hard to get into, and the genetics will help. But like basketball, I loved it. I played it all the time. And again, I just wasn't, the coach sat me down and said, hey, you might want to think about becoming a really good fan. Al's one of my mentors, I spent some time with him when I first started out, and he is insatiable. The guy loves it. I would say he's far more of an artist than I am. I mean, he studies the figure, and I like the figure, and I'll go ahead and do that, but I'm moving on to other things, and he is just really into it. And I am too, but I would say he's far more. He puts in a lot more time into some of those different areas. But he does it from beginning to the day till he goes to bed. Yes?
I have another question. A couple of questions actually. How do you maintain work-life balance? And the other question is, how do you keep yourself marketed so you always have some flow of a project coming and going?
Okay, the life balance. Every now and then I just have to, like dinner table. I make sure I have dinner with the family. It's a thing that's in the past, but if you want to have interaction with your kids and still maintain a relationship with people, and nowadays you can go out to eat and stuff like that, but we have dinner every night. And so that's a big part. And I try and give a half hour before I go to bed with the family. But this upcoming year, I will travel 2 weeks of the month. I'll be on the road. And people love Skyping. I hate Skype. How many people like Skyping? I don't want to see somebody when I talk to them for some reason. I'm like, I don't know where you're talking. It's like, hey, look at me. I don't know. I don't think it's as relevant. Now, if you have a grandchild, and I do have a grandchild, I'll want to see him. And my daughter too, but still, you know what I mean. But it is hard. And when I get home and I realize that I'm leaving, the hardest thing about I love what I do, but I hate leaving. I really do. After a while, travel is kind of this, if you have to do it a lot, if you get to do it every now and then, it's great. But after a while, you go, all I'm doing is eating and looking at something different. it's really pretty basic. Don't get me wrong, it's cool, but you really appreciate home because that's where really all the memories come in. Now, if you're traveling with your family, great. So that's our. The other one, next project, you have to think a year in advance. I have puzzles in Costco, but 4 years before I had puzzles in Costco, I was in Costco and I went, I think I should try and get puzzles into Costco. It took 4 years to get there. And the TV idea, it was 5 years ago, and last year is when we went on to PBS. It took 4 years before it happened. So you just have to be ahead of things. And we're just about to launch something that we won't see fruits for 2 years. We're going to do a travel club, puzzle of the month kind of thing, points, where you follow along, you put together the puzzle, you see the people, you just participate in what we're doing, and you try and get to travel with it. You have a passport book, whatever. That may work, may not. I've done a lot of things that have tanked so bad that we joke about it now and go, remember that dog of an idea? Yeah. Hope this one isn't one of them. But you're always trying something, and some of them are expensive lessons. People will go, you should be rolling in money. I'm like, I should be, but I've made 7 bad choices last year and 2 good ones, and the 2 good ones kept us alive. That's how it goes. Do you have something? You're flinching. You're just like, man, I'd like to get out of here. I do too. Go ahead.
Have you painted your own story?
My own story? Yes, I'm a narcissist and I put myself everywhere. No, I love putting my wife in. So if you see somebody with tulips, that's my wife. And so I'll put my family in, different stories, different things. And sometimes I'll let people know what they are. If you ever see a kid with a chicken, that's me. Actually, I'll tell you a story. I put it in. When I was kindergarten, I wanted to show, I was in charge of the chickens, so the carpool came, which I thought I would need a swimsuit for. Again, not very smart. The carpool came, and I wanted to show off my pet chicken, and they're like, that's fantastic, we gotta go. And the chicken coop was a long ways away, and I'm going, mailbox. I just put the chicken in the mailbox, shut the thing, and took off to school. Now, while I was at school, the mail lady, we were on the outskirts of Boise, Idaho. She's just on her regular day. She opens up that mailbox. It's 100 degrees. The chicken jumps into, and have you ever seen a chicken lose its mind? Which is just about every day. They're nuts. Anyhow, and it just, feathers are flying, and she's freaking out, going, what in the world is that? Letters are going everywhere. She drives up to the neighbors. We're on a farm, so they're ways away. They're like, you tell them they're never getting the mail again. And I get home, I'm like, hey, Mom, how was your day? And all of a sudden, I'm getting spanked. So, and today, that's a federal offense. That's a federal offense. I'm sure hauling away this 8-year-old to the pen or whatever. But so there's a chicken in a mailbox in several paintings. I did a bunch of baseball ones, and you'll be looking through the stands. You're like, hey, there's a fan, there's Hulk Hogan, I'll put different people in the fans, and then there's a chicken in a mailbox. You're like, what the crud is that? So I do put some of my stories in there. Some of them I can't tell you. There's my ex-wife. Doesn't she look great? No, I'm kidding. I'm kind. Go ahead.
So you have just one painting that just your favorite?
Yes, but no one's ever seen it. It's called Amish Sunday. It's 4 wagons in a row going to, if you've seen it. All right, so it's really simple. It's not like the style I'm doing. It's less is more. And in my world where it's a little hectic, 4 wagons in a row going to church with North Platte type in the background. It's a scene out of Ohio. Really simple. Millions of dots. This is back when I did pointillism. Then I got carpal tunnel and I had to change my style. And it was a good thing because I would have never made a career dotting things forever. There's a reason Surratt did starve until he passed away, and then his family was very grateful. But I don't love my family that much. No, I'm just kidding. I want my family to do well, but we want to do well while I'm here. But Amish Sunday. It's really calming and simple. So, yes.
So you say you go around and you collect the stories. How do you collect them, and then what do you do after you do the painting with those stories?
Okay, great question. First of all, you would hate me on the road. If you're just out doing what you do, as some stranger walks up to you and starts talking to you, that just doesn't happen very often. I don't have a problem doing that because I was from a large family and we just didn't know boundaries. Again, lots of different things like personal space. Didn't know what it meant. So I just find people and I want to know their story. We were up in Skagway on a cruise, went into a restaurant, start eating. What do you do? Why do you do what you do? Tell me your story. Here's the reality of it. Everybody wants to talk about themselves. Tell me about yourself. You really care? No, but tell me about yourself. You actually, if you are sincere and you really do want to know, would you want to tell your story? Not in front of everybody, but maybe to somebody. Yeah. Everybody wants to talk about themselves. And if you give somebody an opportunity to share why they're doing what they're doing and how it came about, they'll open up like a Christmas tree. Christmas trees don't open up. Let me get a different analogy. Open up like a Christmas present. There we go. Anyhow, so they want to share their story, so it naturally happens. And it's just a lot of fun. So then I come back, I'll put them in the painting, different things or different stories, and on the website there's a key that'll say this is that, and you can figure it out. And if you want the full story, well.
Do you record them, or?
We're starting to do more of that. That's the reason for the TV show. The whole TV show came about by going, why am I'm the lucky one that gets to meet these people. Now you get to meet them. In January, we will release our first Painting the Town DVD, Puzzle of the Month Club, and we went to Plymouth. The oldest church in America is in Plymouth, the oldest building. And it's run by a Unitarian church, which is not denominational. And in fact, it's and to meet this guy and talk to him about where America was, where it is now, and to hear his religious views and how broad they are, it was a fascinating story. And then we went up into the top where all these 300-year-old bells, and no one's ever been up there. And I got to go up and ring these bells and tick off the town because they're like, it's 12 o'clock? What's going on? It's not 12. Yeah, so you get to see that guy and you get to meet him and you're going, man, when I go to Plymouth, I want to go to that church. So.
The reason I ask, I'm a historian by training,
Mm-hmm.
so to collect those stories, you have this painting that tells the stories, but also like an archive that
Sure.
goes along with those stories.
Sure, we were in Gettysburg, ran into two veterans. This is one of my favorite stories. We're filming them. Key to a great interview is shut up. When people start to talk, I'm learning, I'm trying, but these two veterans, you could tell they were having a real great experience at Gettysburg, and he goes, when I came home from Vietnam, there just wasn't a welcome. Nobody really cared. It was not a good experience for Vietnam vets. They came home and there was no fanfare, no love. In fact, some of them were really discarded. And then he paused, because we're standing in Gettysburg in a spot where 12,000 people died in one day. And he paused and he just started crying. He goes, but I got to come home. And he was standing there with his brother, and he realized his brother's from Florida, he's from Pennsylvania, they would have fought against each other. And that specific place we were standing at, Picket Charge, where 12,000 people died in one day, you talk about stories, and the story I want to tell, if you look at my Gettysburg painting, there's a picnic basket in it. And you're going, what's the picnic basket? 50 years after that battle at Pickett's Charge, they reenacted it between the South and the North. And instead, when they got to the wall, the North put down their guns and extended their hand to these 80-year-old men and helped them over the rocks, and they all sat down and had a picnic. And that was in the early 1900s when they did that. I'm like, that is like the coolest story I've ever heard. How come I didn't hear that in school? So we put that in the painting, we tell that story. And to me, that's all the fun. I hear that and I'm going, okay, I can go to the next town and find something like that. Yes?
How long does it take you to collect the story, collect the history and those types of things?
Great question, because I'll do the research on history before I leave, so that takes a day. I'll do it on the plane a little bit. What a gift the internet is. I used to have to go to the library and look up stuff and get pictures off of that. And I had frequent flyer miles at the library downtown Salt Lake. I haven't been there in 10 years. So I do a lot of research. When I film, it's one full week. When I go in, and I don't have a camera crew following me around or anything, I can do it in 2 days. Meet the people. I go pretty fast. That's why I don't take my family or my wife when I do research, because the last thing I want to do is inflict on her what I need to do and want to do and have to do. If we're on vacation, I won't do that. So everybody's like, did your wife go with you to Tahiti? No. What? Because who wouldn't want to go to Tahiti? Any other question? Yeah, go ahead.
Where's the sense of humor come in? 'Cause you're...
Desperation. Large family, survival. I don't know. It's
Like they're in your paintings too, so like it's just kind of funny to see what's in there. What do you have any?
I will tell a story about that because you're just doing what you do. But in a large family, it's survival. And you're like, how can I get more attention? I'll do a painting. How can I get something done? I know I'll make people laugh. And you don't even know if you're funny or not funny, but somebody laughs and you keep going. And you're not even trying to. Sometimes you do. And when you try, you usually fail miserably. But this is a true story I'm going to tell you. Again, it's one of those, I really wasn't that smart. I wish I'd have had the internet when I was young. Because people would say to me, you ought to be a comedian. And I would go, I'm an American. I thought Comedia was a place, and I thought, that's got to be the funniest place in the world. Richard Pryor lives there. Bob Hope lives there. I'm like, I'm an American, but I'd love to be a comedian. And that sounds funny, but that's really true. I thought, well, who wouldn't want to be a comedian? There's funny people there. So how did I become that? I don't know. Just desperation. If somebody laughs, you're like, ooh, I'm going to do that again. Because it is kind of fun. Cooks, if you look at, why does a person go into being a chef or a cook? It's no different than art or anything. Why do you do what you do? Hopefully, because every talent and gift you have, it's not for you. It's really not for your benefit. It is to be given away. It's to be shared. So like you watch a chef when they make a meal, and I love going down to Latin America because these people will put something on the table for you to eat. And if you eat it and love it, they're like, this is the best day of my life. To do something for somebody else that they enjoy is a rush. So if you make people laugh, and that's great. If you can paint something that people enjoy, if you can tell a story that people like, that's like cooking a great spaghetti. And people just eat it up. And so you understand. So I don't care. Again, you're going, so an engineer, to build a building, to build these buildings that people get to meet in and know that there's satisfaction there, fantastic. Like what are some of the career ideas or things you guys want to go into? Just name them. You said something, genetic engineering, way over my head. I've already disqualified myself from any kind of intellectual discussion on that, but wow. And aviation, great career. Photography? Boy, what a wide open arena that is now with the ability to trademark something and put it out there for people to use. We already know what you're going to do.
Quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
You seem like you've rolled with a lot of risky ideas and made them successful. What would you say to someone who had an idea that they wanted to do, but they were the ones that were telling themselves that they probably couldn't do it?
I believe that's a natural evolution personally. It's a cautionary tale for yourself. I mean, we all liked watching American Idol when somebody would get on and sing and do terrible, and Simon would go, I don't know how to break this to you, but you ought to try something else. There comes a point, okay? Now, if you're that critic, the one that's holding yourself back,
The guy that's saying that it sounds so outlandish and unrealistic.
yeah. So my point on that is that's your journey, and you will get to a point where you will stop telling yourself that story. And if you don't, hey, personal opinion, we live a long time, whether here or somewhere else, you're going to continue to learn and grow, all right? So that idea doesn't die. It doesn't go away, okay? So you take it with you no matter what. But the opportunities can still be applied here. Don't get caught up in that. I'll tell you, if I would have gone on TV 10 years ago, I couldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been ready. I didn't have enough life experience. I also didn't. I had to have some beat downs, some disappointments. My kids had to grow up and like me again. All those things. I don't know. You go through all these processes in life that help you relate to other people. And if I didn't have that, I had a buyer. There was a buyer at BJ's. Everybody heard of BJ's? It's like a Costco of the East Coast. The toy buyer, the head toy buyer for 200 stores was a 34-year-old boy who was not married and didn't have kids. Who in the world hires a guy like that to buy toys for kids? I'm going, how did you guys decide on this guy to match that? So I'm grateful that it's taken a long time for a lot of the things that I wanted to happen. If they would have happened the way I wanted them to, it would have been too premature. It wouldn't have been a good idea, a good thing. Yeah, I got 5 minutes. I'm done, man. No, I'm. Go ahead.
How do you manage your expectations?
Past history telling me, all right, don't get too excited. It's really, what's the difference between good news and bad news at a business? This will answer that question. What's the difference between good news and bad news at work? Say it again.
Your reaction.
Your reaction, yeah. Anybody have any other input? What's the difference between good news and bad news today? You get good news, bad news. What's the difference tonight with good news and bad news for you in your life? Perspective. Okay, so they've done some surveys. What's the most important? What are people most afraid of? Public speaking. Second, death. So most people would rather die than be up here, what I'm doing right now. The other, number 3, and this is why I believe I have an advantage over my competition. Number 3, the biggest fear is hard work. So the difference between good news and bad news, if you're fearing working harder, when I get bad news at my business, Costco wants to send all the puzzles back. Ah, crud. That means I'm going to have to work harder to make up that difference. Hey, Costco sales are fantastic. We're selling them like crazy. Oh, crap. We need to work harder to sell more or to get more done. The difference is only this, your economics. You're going to work hard, good news or bad news. You don't get to stop. And I've got friends that are trust funders who've made tons of money, and you can hear them getting soft. They're getting softer by the minute. And how long will this economic engine of America keep cranking like it is? I don't know. But if it all went away tomorrow, who's going to survive? Who's going to make it? Nobody buys emergency artwork. That's one of my slogans. So I don't expect you to be at my door when the dollar dies. But hard workers, that's it. So whatever career you're doing, just make work your friend and you'll always be okay. And people are beating up the millennials. They don't know how to work. They don't know how to work. It is true in a lot of cases. But if a millennial will grab a hold of that one principle, because the information's there, everybody can be smart. It's in your pocket. It's right there. If you're a hard worker, you'll be successful. That's my 5 cents, and it's worth exactly that. So, thank you. I hope this was beneficial to you, and if not, hey, you got pizza. So.